Hey folks, welcome back to HeartGold vs. Crystal. We're here in Violet City, taking off down to Route 32 after stocking up on some items. And Route 32 is a route. It sure is a route. It has trainers and everything. This is mostly going to be an opportunity to talk about my new team member, Bree, the Togepi, and the various challenges associated with it. Anyway, first things first, there's this guy. He will give you a miracle seed. In the original games, he was optional to talk to. You could just walk right by him. But now he walks up to you and gives you the item, probably because they don't have to worry about a finite item storage system in this game. Anyway, when I went to the mart, I bought repels. Those will keep any Pokemon away that are lower than the first Pokemon in your party. Unfortunately, Togepi hatches at level 1. Forgot about this. And that's actually a difference from Crystal. Eggs in this game hatch at level 1 rather than at level 5. But either way, it wouldn't really have been good enough to repel Pokemon. But I'm sure you're all dying to know what the grand strategy is for Bree. So, I present to you this picnicker. And she is a prime candidate for showing off the abilities that Bree has. Specifically in HeartGold. In Crystal, it hatches with, like, Growl and Tail Whip or something. But in HeartGold, they gave him an egg move. Every Togepi comes pre-installed with a copy of Extra Sensory, which is a very nice psychic move, actually. Normally you'd have to do a bit of tricky and crafty breeding in order to get that onto a Togepi. But now, Togepi comes with a pretty darn good offensive move. In Crystal, you'd have to do a bait and switch until your Togepi got Metronome, which is not a reliable move, but it's good for some laughs. Here, comes with a good move, and there are plenty of poison types to abuse around here. You can kill Weedle, you can kill Bellsprout, and there are various Nidorans that trainers have on this route, and yeah, I think it's Soul Silver, you can find Wild Ekans. So, actually, pretty good, and it's a special move, and there aren't really many special walls at this point in the game, so it's a pretty good idea. Anyway, I'm using Nidoran as an example, because Nidoran are pretty cool, but are also weak to psychic moves. Anyway, Crystal Bree will get her own useful capability, useful move in the next episode. But this Bree has exactly what it needs. I'll show off a little bit of Metronome, but not too much. Metronome's, again, good for a laugh, but not particularly useful. Even if it uses a good move, it's usually not at a useful time. Anyway, installed this person's number in the Pokegear because I felt like it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Anyway, unfortunately, Togepi is still a bit too low level to repel all the Pokemon I want to. There are a lot of level 6s on this route, and Bree is, at this point, level 6, and it doesn't do equal or lesser, it's just lesser, so. Anyway, this route is divided into two paths. There's the east path, which is a boardwalk with a bunch of fishermen, and then the west path with only one trainer, but a lot of wild Pokemon. So, depending on... Well, actually, you can just walk straight past the fishermen if you want, so... If you're doing, like, a low-level run or something, you can go on the right, but... There's also this guy. You can probably avoid him, but I want the experience. Anyway, here is the first landmark on our southward trek. It's another Pokemon Center, and you'll see that I'm actually showing the inside. Now, what does that mean? That means that there's something interesting inside that I want to show you. What could it be? There's Nurse Joy. Hi there, Nurse Joy. And there's also this fisherman. This fisherman will give you a classic, wonderful, useful item. It is known as the Old Rod. And if you've used it before, you probably have a good sense of what it will do for you. It will get you a Magikarp. Lots and lots of Magikarp. More Magikarp than your body has room for, in fact. That's... Actually, not very many Magikarp. Magikarp are pretty big, but you understand the point. Anyway, I'm picking it up not because I want a Magikarp, actually. There's actually a few devious things you can do with an old rod, one of which you will see in just a few minutes. But for now, I'm picking up the rest of the items, fighting that dude over there, and then heading back, backtracking, wonderfully, amazingly enough, and showing Bree off to Professor Elm, and doing a little secret something. Anyway, you may have noticed that big, like, train rail up there. That is new for this game. That was not in Crystal. You will understand its purpose in due time, but you can probably make a logical assumption based on the fact that it's a train rail. Anyway, let's warp forward to Cherry Grove City, where I whip out my rod. And this is the use of the old rod. If you're not in the market for a Magikarp, you can also find, on rare occasions, Krabby here in Cherry Grove. And Krabby appears like 5% of the time, statistically. I had an argument with the viewers about statistics while I was waiting for one of these guys to show up. They don't like to appear. They're like Ralts. They are rare. But anyway, Krabby here is a rather special little bug. He is a physical-oriented water-type Pokemon, which have now become a little more viable now that they're actually physical water moves. If his move pool actually cooperated with that, that would be a good thing. But nonetheless, there will definitely be a difference in the movesets between the two generations, depending on what moves complement his physical attack. Anyway, here's him in Crystal. The guy in HeartGold was caught very easily once I finally had him on the hook, but took a while to actually find. This was the exact opposite. This Krabby appeared very quickly, but he took a million years to catch in basically every other step besides finding him. Since I didn't have extra sensory on Bree here in Crystal, I didn't really have a good way to weaken him, other than using Webster's Constrict. It would be very, very risky to try to use Poison Sting, because then Krabby might get poisoned, and that could possibly kill him if my luck with Pokeballs didn't work out. It would make him temporarily easier to catch, because poison does actually make things easier to catch, not as much as sleep, but it's still useful. But I didn't want to run that risk, especially considering how long it took for that other Krabby to appear. Anyway, let's keep constricting here. And yeah, it's a lot more tedious, unfortunately. And around this point, pretty soon, I'm like, alright, screw it, this is taking too long, I'm just gonna throw a Pokeball at it and hope it works. And I'm gonna edit out a bunch of failures, but truth be told, didn't really work. Had to weaken him a lot more and use up basically all of my Pokeballs. I cut out like literally half the fight there, probably more, and oh god damn it. So yeah, what is with this guy? I don't really know. There, using my last Pokeball. I could have used a Great Ball earlier and it probably would have gone a lot quicker, but I want to save that for a rainy day. And there we go, Krabby was caught. Now, those of you who watched the Spectrobes Origins playthrough probably know that I like Krabby quite a bit. This is not that Krabby. This is, in fact, Klaus. I came up with that all by myself. Aren't you proud of me? Anyway, we have one other stop. You remember in the last episode, I said that we were going to visit Professor Elm, and using editing, he is now living in a Pokemon Center or something. You know, don't ask me, whatever. Once you hatch Togepi, he will be like, "Hey, hook me up with some of that good stuff, yo." Show it to him. He'll give you an Everstone, which you can give to a Pokemon to hold to prevent them from evolving. If you're doing like an unevolved run, or you're holding out for a move that is learned at an earlier level with pre-evolution, that can be useful, but it's more just a time saver. Anyway, that wraps up the episode proper, but before you go, here's...
Crazy moves that Bree gets from Metronome!
We begin with a fierce battle against a male Nidoran, in which Bree manages to summon the power of one of the most powerful Grass-type moves in the game. Unfortunately, Grass-type moves are not very powerful against Poison types, and Solar Beam, although it sounds awesome, requires 2 turns to successfully attack. However, undaunted, Bree once again uses its powers against this Magikarp and summons perhaps the most useful Water-type move in the game. With high power and high accuracy, Surf is a hell of a lot better than Hydro Pump. Bree then manages to completely outdo anything it's done before by transforming into its opponent using its own power against it. Unfortunately, Magikarp doesn't have any power, and as such Bree is helpless. However, undaunted, Bree unleashes its full power by using Explosion, the most powerful self-destructing move in the game. However, we're not really in the market for having Bree faint like ever, so that wasn't so good. Once more, Bree uses Metronome and unleashes Spore, the most useful sleeping move in the game, unfortunately exclusive to a very small number of Pokémon. 100% accuracy. It is then followed by the best ground-type move in the game, Earthquake. 100 accuracy and 100 base power makes it a force to be reckoned with. And finally, the luck finally aligns in a type advantage, and Thunder not only hits, but hits super effectively against a level 6 Pidgey. And that wraps up this episode's Crazy Moves that Bree gets from Metronome!